Okay, lesson number 5, radicals. So we have had some of these ideas and concepts. I explained them to you on Friday last week. So the first one is the square roots, and this is what's important, that the positive square root is called the principal square root, and it's denoted by that symbol. So when you see the square root of 16 on your page, you only have to write down the 4. Even though, hypothetically, the square roots of 16 are 4 and negative 4. In this book, in this curriculum, when you see the symbol that looks like this, the radical, you only have to write down the positive 4. If you have the square root on here, if you have the square root of a non-perfect square, those will be irrational numbers. So the square roots of 17 will be irrational. When you type in your calculator, you'll have a crazy answer. Okay, cube roots. All numbers that have one cube root will be denoted by a little cube up in the radical sign, like this, right here. And that means that you need 3 numbers to multiply together to give you the number under the radical sign. So right here, the cube root of 1,000 is 10 because 10 times 10 times 10 gives you the 1,000 that's under the radical. That's called the cube root. We talked about this before. The cube root of negative 27, you can put the negative under if the index is 3, because negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, a negative times a negative times a negative gives you a negative 27. You're allowed to have a negative if the index is odd. There is no cube root of 49, which you will see here. There is a square root, but there is not a cube root. Okay. Go down here. So you see 4 times 4 is 16 under the warm-up. 4 times 4 is 16, so the square root of 16 is 4. You can write it like this. This is all very redundant. You've seen this many times before. The cube root of 125 is 5, since 5 times 5 is 125. A 4th root of 16, because 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16, and the 4th root of 16 is 2. Or, when you see the little 4 index up here, that means the 4th root of 16 is 2. If you see 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, all those 10s is a million, then you know that since there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, we're going to have the 6th root of 1 million is 10. Look at 10 too. Okay. So next we have the class example. And we're supposed to mentally evaluate where possible. You know some of these answers right off the top of your head. Square root of 49 is 7. The cube root of a negative 64. Are you allowed to have negative under a cube root? Yes, because the index is odd. It's a 3. So negative, the answer is going to be a negative. It'll be a 4. Because negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 is indeed negative 64. Now what about the 4th root of 10,000? Any takers? Yes, it's going to be a 10. Now, don't freak out. Next question, letter D. Don't freak out because it has a 5th root of a fraction. Just do the top and the bottom individually. So we know that the 5th root of 1 is 1, because 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, all 5 of them is 1. Then the 5th root of 32 is a 2. So fractions are okay. How about the 4th root of negative 16? Are you allowed to take the 4th root of a negative number? No, you're not. Because you cannot take the 4th root. No 4 numbers equally the same will ever give you a negative number. So this is not possible. Okay, letter F. We have 2 times the cube root of 125. If you recall from last year, this 2 out here is simply multiplying this cube root of 125. So all we have to do is find the cube root of 125 and then times it by 2. So the cube root of 125 if you recall from Friday, was a 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, turn the page. Oh, shucks. Way too far. Let me just give me a second. I'll go back. Okay, so we're going to have some rules about this stuff, or I guess we get to do some practice. Oh yeah, I know. Sorry about that. We get to learn how to use the feature of our calculator. I mentioned this on Friday, but for those of you that can't remember or didn't have your calculators, you can find whatever radical you want to, whether it's a 4th root, a 3rd root, a 5th root, and it's all under the math button. So if you want to have a 4th root of 10,000, you will go to hit 4 first, because you have to tell it what root you want, what index you want. So you press 4, then you hit the math button, and then you choose option 5. You can go down to it with your Game Boy keys, or you can, however you want to choose it. You need that symbol, the square root, but it has a little X up in the top. That indicates that you can pick whatever root you want. Then you type in the 10,000, hit enter, and you get 10 as your answer. Okay, so I'm probably just going to press, you could press pause at this point, and you could go ahead and find the answers to those questions in exercise number 2. Using your calculator, you can type those in there. You should get these answers. Same thing with the bottom. You can type those in your calculator with example 3. You should get some funky answers like this: 2.63, 0.89, and 3.75. So those are all this calculator work. I'm sure someone near you can help you find those. Okay, it's important that we know how to talk about radicals, and I keep using the word index, and I don't know if you remember what that is, but when we have all these radicals up here, we have, notice, different indexes. This little number here, they're called the indexes. Now, if you don't have one there, it's blank, that means it's automatically a 2 for square root. Okay, so this is the index. We have a radical sign here. And then the thing under the root sign, the radical sign, is the 29. And all together, we call it a radical. Okay? Again, in this note, this little guy is really important, by the way. Take him into consideration. When he says something that's usually important, when the index is not written in the radical, as in square root, is assumed to be a 2. So when you see that symbol with nothing in the index, you know that really there's a 2 there. Okay, again, we're going to turn the page. Okay, so this is pretty easy. If you saw the last page, all you have to do is identify the index and the radicand in each of the following. So the index is the 5, the radicand is the 75. Oh, what's the index? There's nothing there. That means there's a 2. The radicand is 50. In part C, this 5 simply is multiplying it. So the index is still a 3, and the radicand is the -1/10. The 5 doesn't really fit into either of those 2 categories. It's just multiplying it. Okay, next we're going to talk about some rules with radicals. Super important, like star, highlight, whatever it takes. It is super important to notice that multiplication has a cool rule that works. Those are equal if you multiply. Same thing if you divide. If you divide a radical by a radical, you can put them all under one radical sign, and you still have the same answer. But it does not work when you add or subtract. You can prove it. The square root of 9 over here is a 3 plus, what's the square root of 4? 2. That's going to be a 5. Is that going to equal the square root of 13? Not. They do not equal each other at all. Okay, that is not equal. But is it true over here? What is the square root of 9? 3 times the square root of 4, which is 2. 3 times 2 is a 6 on the left-hand side. This will be the square root of 36. Is that true? Yes, we go cha-ching. That is correct. So the rule works for multiplication and division, but not for addition and subtraction. Don't forget it. So important. Here's this little note guy again. Hugely important what he has to say. Sum of the difference does not work, but product and quotient do. All right, so now we can state whether it's true. Is 3 times 6, 18? Yes. Does the rule work for multiplication? Yes. For division? Yes. For addition? No. If it works, we can make this, and we can put these two radicals together under the root symbol, which gives us root 24. I'm already here in part B. The square root of 7 times 3, I can just do the multiplication and get root 21. Root 50 over root 10, you can write it as one radical, 50 over 10, which then I can actually do that math inside. Radical 5 is what you'll have with you. And D isn't really that hard. It looks a little complicated, but it's not. Just work from do what you know. Do the edge pieces first. So I know this. I know what the square root of 100 is. It's 10. I have to leave the outside radical on it and do the bottom. Copy, 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 change one thing. Can I do those together? Yes, because I have a rule for division. I can put them together. Then I can simply do that math. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So I write down the radical sign and put a 5. Similarly, I can break them up in the same way. So if I need to write them as a product, that means multiply. I'm going to make them as two things multiplied together. Okay, what do you want to put in here? How about 11 and 7? Not much options there. Root 27 could be, how about 9 and 3? Oh, root 40. 4 and 10? Any other options? Yes. How about 2 and 20? So sometimes you have more than one option. Okay, that's it. Good luck on your homework. You can look in the answer key if you need something, but best to check with a friend near you first. Is